In this video, we are fixing another bug. So here I have Discord open and we can see this person has the logbook history and he or she has the same quest open, this hunt or be hunted. So the same quest enters multiple times because they have received it multiple times, but also whenever the person has completed the quest, the end timestamp is updated for all the entries. So basically we have to look at this logbook history and improve it a little bit. So let's go to my local development. I've opened the history and here I also have the same quest entering twice. And what I'm thinking is we shouldn't have the same quest enter twice at all. And the reason for this is simply that it is too much data for us to store without any good reason for it. I don't think anyone needs to know when they completed all their dailies back in time. So I think instead we'll have one entry for each quest and maybe a counter for how many times you completed it and when you last started and ended it. So it's going to be a little bit elaborate, I think, but let's start with the schema. That should be simple enough. So if we go to the quest history, this is basically what we're seeing in this table. It's this data model. And I think we will add an entry for, let's see what we call it. We call it previous completes maybe. And that will just be an int, has a default value of 0 and it's not null. So this is fine. Do we need more? I think that's it. Let's make db push. So we push it to the database. And usually I find whenever I've pushed things to the database, it's a good idea to restart the container just to make sure the types are all good everywhere. So that's the data model we have updated. Now we need whenever, but that's because the container is restarting. Now we need whenever we finish a quest, it should update this. So let's go to the route for quests. This is the backend. And here we have, I think it's called check rewards. Yes, so this endpoint is the backend endpoint that updates whenever a user has finished a quest. Basically, it checks whether you're getting any rewards, and if you're getting rewards, it also updates your quest history. So we see here it sets completed equals to 1. And now we want previous completes to also be updated. And I think we do it like this: history previous completes +1 and comma. There we go. So now whenever a user finishes a quest, it should update this counter. That's good. And now we then need to look at all the places where we are inserting into the quest history. So if we search for, would it be like this? Yes, these are all the places where we're inserting entries into this data model, and we need to work with all of them. So we have an insert one quest entry. And basically what we want to be doing now is instead to do an upsert. So that means we insert if it doesn't exist and we update if it does exist. So let's change this to, let's call it upsert quest entry. And this one needs to now first fetch the current entry, if there is one. And I think since we're deployed on planet scale, which is MySQL, we can't do anything too clever here. So we just have to fetch the data and see if it exists sequentially. At least that's my understanding. Let's see what Copilot comes up with. It says where the quest history is equal to the quest ID. That's definitely right. Where the user ID is equal to user ID. That's definitely also right. And where the quest history completed is null. I don't think this one can be null. Let's check the schema. It's a tiny int with a default value of 0 and not null, so this will never be null. But we probably do want to find entries where it is 0. No, we just want to find any entries for this one. So we just do like this, for current. Okay, and then if current exists, then we do one thing, then we need to do an update. And otherwise, we need to do an insert. And the insert is what we have here. And then if it already exists, we need to do something different. How do we code this best? I think we can do like this. So we create a log entry here, but this time we only have started at, which is now. We have end at, which will be null, and we have completed, which will be 0. And then we run the update where quest history ID is equals to current ID. That's right. And then we still want to return exactly this. So basically the previous values where we only update these 3 fields. And then this entire function is still returning one quest history entry for us. So that was one update. And we had these 3 that we needed to deal with. So let's look at the second one. And what is this then doing? No, this is the one we just dealt with. This is the one we need to deal with now. So this is what happens when a content admin or content member changes a quest from being mission or something else to being an event, and then basically it is inserting into the quest history of all the users that have been active within the last 7 days. It's inserting one of these quest histories. And I think the third one is this cron job that we are running once a day, and that's doing more or less the same thing where it's inserting quest histories for dailies or daily quests for all the users. So now that we need to do kind of an upsert for many users, I think we should make some generic function for doing this so we can reuse it both of these places. I think that would be the most convenient way to do it. So probably let's do it down here where we already have the upsert quest entry method. Let's then do one for upsert quest entries, and it'll be an async function again. We need some parameters, and it's doing something. Do something. So let's first think about what parameters this should take. It definitely needs the Drizzle ORM client so we can do stuff against the database. It will need the quest for sure still, like the other one. And then I think the major difference between these two updates is basically this where statement, basically selecting which users to update. Not that where statement, this one, this where statement. So we need to make our function should basically be able to take one of these where statements. And what type is that? That's an SQL unknown undefined. Okay. So let's call this the selector. We call it SQL unknown. And we need to import this from somewhere. Quick fix, import from Drizzle ORM. That sounds about right. So we have a selector. Perfect. Okay. And then we need to fetch the users first. Let's see, we can copy this, I think. And we need to go down to this again. So first we define which users we want to update. Oh, let's think here, because we only want to get the users who don't have a quest history already. So how do we do that? Definitely need to put client in here. I guess a clever way of doing this, let's do this quest to, and then we do client, then we select, and we only need the user ID. So now we're not using the drizzle or relational querying, we're doing the more SQL-like thing, because then we can do a left join. So we select user ID from user data, and then we left join on quest history. And yeah, that's right, that's how you do it. So we need to do and here. Now it's putting in too many parentheses. Let's see what it's doing. We need to left join quest history user ID on user data. User ID, that's right. And then we also need to do quest history quest ID on the quest ID. What are we missing? Oh, what's going on? Where did it put the selector here? There we go. This is better, I think. So we need quest history, user ID on user data, user ID, quest history, quest ID on quest ID. This is right. We do this left join, and then we do where selector. And then we just need to make sure that the selector, this one, is also putting in a select where it selects for quest history being null. So it only gets users where quest history is null. I think that's fine that we require that to be done outside of this method. So it's part of the selector that you pass into the method. Okay, and then we do if user's length is over something, then for these users, we need to insert a quest history. So we do like that. Is this correct? Copilot is writing a lot of my code these days. So user ID, quest ID. This seems right, yes. And then once we have inserted, so now we are sure that all these users who didn't have that quest before gets that quest, and then at the end we basically wait, then we update the state of this quest for everybody in the database. So we update quest history set completed 0 and at null started at no, not selected this. We do where, and then we just need to set it for that quest ID. There we go. I am quite confident this is doing exactly what we want it to do, but let's just check. So the only thing here is we need to ensure that we put in this selector that selects that the quest history should be null. Let's put some doc strings on this one. Upset quest entries for all users by selector. selector should decide if users determines which users are updated. Get updated. And this one is more simple. Absurd. What do we call it? Quest entry for a single user, like that. Good. And I think this one should be good to use then. So now we need to find a place where we used it up here, right? So we can do await. Oh, this method we just created. Entry needs to be, yes, that's right, entry. And then we need the selector here. And the selector needs to be this one. No, it's not happy. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, okay, that worked. But then we need to remember to only do it for users where we do not have a quest history already. Let's just check here. We say I don't know if we can just do is null on the quest history.id. I would think so. Is there a better way? Is there a way we could just incorporate it into this? I don't think so. So we need to do an additional one here which says is null quest history ID. I'm thinking I will be confused at this in the future. Let's rename this one to update selector. This makes it clearer that this is for which users we will update. That's probably good enough for now. We can always refactor later. And then we want to use this method in the daily updates as well. So we import here from routers quests. And then basically we do it here. That was completely wrong. We need to do drizzle db. We want to pass the new daily, and then we need the selector again, which is that one. And again, we want it to select where the quest history is null. So we'll add that in there. And why is it now complaining about the new daily? That is because new daily could potentially not have been found. So we'll just put that in an if statement. And now we're not using the nano ID anymore. And I think that's basically it. So now we have 2 places where we are inserting quest entries from, and this should all work out. So I think I'll stop the video here. I might test this a little bit before I deploy it, but otherwise it should be live in a few minutes once I've pushed it. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.